The sentiment around Hedera has been rough over the last couple weeks, and I do believe that now, as we really look at this space, Hedera is ready to have a major bounce and ultimately silence a lot of the negativity and a lot of the FUD going around. And although a lot of it isn't really FUD, there is some concerns. I don't think that it really matters so much in the short term or even in the long term, and we're going to be addressing why. But first, welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. As we look at some of the price action in this market, and we can even see this on, Hedera in the last 7 days, a lot of these altcoins have had major wicks to the downside. This is to capture, a ton of liquidity, especially for those that are trying to long and get and liquidate it. Like we've started to see a liquidity or a liquidation cascade happen over the last couple days. And this is great for capturing liquidity, boosting the price action to the upside, essentially, because again, liquidity is crucial for any movement in this market, especially when we are talking about altcoins. So I do think that a lot of lick hunting has happened. And when it comes to HBAR, again, it also happened with HBAR. And we could see that over here on the weekly chart. Now, in my opinion, I do believe that we will maintain above this trend line. If we do lose it, then yes, that will call for concern. But right now, as you guys do see on my screen, we are ultimately trading above it right now. Now, I am recording this a little bit ahead of time. So by the time that this actually does go live, this should be substantially higher in this little wedge that is basically forming between resistance and this uptrend. Now, I do expect us to kind of chop here for a little bit of time before we have a big move to the upside and then a back test of the trend line and then a continuation to the 14 to almost 16 cent range. From there, we really kind of address where HBAR is at and what the next major move is. But in my opinion, I don't believe that HBAR is going to stay under 10 cents for that much longer, especially when it comes to where we are at right now, cyclical wise. But even when we look at the market and address where we are at right now, I don't think that Bitcoin is also going to stay within the 65K region for much longer. We might have some turbulent times ahead in the short term. But like I said, I do think that we are going to wake up in a very large way this summer. And I do think that July is basically the focus for that. So in my opinion, these liquidation hunts that have been happening around the altcoin market to really kind of come back down into demand zones and really kind of grab a ton of liquidity, it's actually very bullish and beneficial for upward movement in the market. But outside of this, let's actually talk about a few things. So recently, the negativity around Hedera has been that, there's way too much compensation, which I've always agreed with. I definitely think that there is some issues, but these issues are not going to halt us. It's not going to hold HBAR back. I saw a lot of people saying like, oh, this is going to kill HBAR price action. As we really look at HBAR and Hedera, almost 72% of the supply is already out there. So majority of the supply is already out in circulation. The rest of the supply is really not going to harm us much at all. And I've talked about this on multiple occasions. The same argument can be said about Casper, for an example. And I've talked about how, the supply doesn't really matter all that much. But regardless, right, I still believe that Hedera is setting the stage to become a massive giant in the space and ultimately, put it on the path to becoming a top 10 project. Just recently, we heard that they are proud to be sponsoring We Are Devs World Congress 2024, the world's premier developer conference, bringing together 15,000 plus builders, 8,000 plus companies, and 500 plus leading voices in tech to connect, collaborate, and drive global innovation. Now, you could say that this is a terrible investment for them, that they're spending money to fund this when ultimately they should be putting it back into the ecosystem. And sure, you could argue that, but in my opinion, I actually think that this is very beneficial to not only put a spotlight on Hedera, but also to possibly bring developers to Hedera as well. If we actually go over here, there's 15,000 plus developers, 8,000 companies, 500 plus speakers. And as we also look at some of the agenda here, it is very significant. We have a must-attend event for all of these big players. We also have down here the entire software development lifecycle. They break down all things software development, mastering the cloud ecosystem, staying ahead with AI and machine learning, future-proof software architecture, optimizing workflows with DevOps excellence, leading the edge with emerging tech, empowering people and culture, and then also tech-driven business and innovation. And even down here, we could see meet experts and decision makers from Microsoft, Google, GitHub, IBM, Red Hat, Stack Overflow, Meta, AWS, NVIDIA, Oracle, SAP, and so many others. Again, this is going to be one of the largest events out there around development, around technology. And as I've said in the past, these events are great. They're great for putting a spotlight on specific companies and also even bringing in more developers to really kind of build out the future of finance and the future of pretty much everything. So I'm actually very excited for them to actually be a sponsor here. I think that's great exposure as well. So I don't really look at this as a negative thing at all. Now, also outside of this, the alt season time bomb is ticking, and now is the best time to go and get your free access to 30 secret crypto gems that I personally have researched completely for you so that you can save a ton of time and make a ton of money. The link down in the description below takes you guys to this page where you can claim your free access instantly right now, free of charge. It's completely free. So what are you doing? What are you waiting for? Go and click the link down in the description below as well as in the comments below to get access now. Talking about developers, the Hashgraph Association just released with Udacity joining forces to launch the Hedera Hashgraph developer course. And I think that this is great. This program equips you with the skills to build and innovate in the Web3 ecosystem, become a Hedera Hashgraph developer as well. And here we have what you'll learn, Web3 fundamentals, grasp the core concepts and how Hedera Hashgraph shapes the digital future. And by the way, I think that this announcement ahead of this event, because this event is going to be July 17th through the 19th, this is actually going to allow for more developers to actually learn about Web3 and even technically come over to Hedera and become a developer. But here we have Hedera Network Deep Dive, uncover the architecture and functionalities that power Hedera's performance and security. Developer skills development, master the skills to build on Hedera hands-on exercises and projects for real-world experience. Local network deployment as well. Learn to set up your own local network and leverage Hedera's consensus and also token services. So love to see these types of these moves being made, because again, every single network in this space, outside of like the top projects, even technically some of the top projects like the XRP Ledger, some of the biggest arguments is there's not enough builders, there's not enough developers, and there's not enough live projects. And that's where developers really kind of come into play. So as we really look at the overall focus here, it seems as though they want to open the door for more and more developers to come over to Hedera and actually fully build. Even more recently, actually, the HBAR Foundation did announce that they've joined Nordic Block to bolster the adoption of blockchain and DLT in the Nordics. This reflects our commitment to support funding of blockchain use cases in the region, sharing best practices and global vision. Again, really kind of putting more of a spotlight on Hedera and even the foundation technically, which I do think is beneficial. Now, this is not like a massive partnership or anything like that. It's probably paid for. We actually have over here the About section. They're a nonprofit organization facilitating the largest professional Web3 network in the Nordics. NBA unites thought leaders and businesses through memberships, regulatory work, and events. If we actually look down here, they have 100 plus partners, 150 plus meetups, 6 conferences, and 4 working groups. And this is the event calendar so far in 2024. And down here, we have the community partners. Again, some substantial names are on this list, which I love to see. But down here, we could also see become a member. And this is how you basically become a member. It's anywhere between 2,000 euros a year to 3,350 per year in terms of euros. And then if you're an enterprise and NGO, you have to contact them. But overall, as we really look at this, even if this is fully paid for, I still think that it's good, and it's good exposure for Hedera and even the foundation to bring developers, bring builders, and ultimately get the word out there around how substantial Hedera is. Even over here in terms of the actual full breakdown, we have, what it's focused on first off, which I just read, but here we have, it is a nonprofit organization facilitating the largest professional Web3 network in the Nordics and unites thought leaders and businesses through memberships, regulatory work, and events. The mission of the Nordic Blockchain Association is to drive the responsible and sustainable growth of blockchain technology through education, advocacy, and also collaboration. Together, we aim to advance the development of supportive legislation, infrastructure, and a vibrant ecosystem that empowers and harnesses the full potential of blockchain in the Nordics and global society at large. The Hedera network is built to benefit everyone, everywhere, and of all the Web3 hotspots around the world. The talent-rich Nordic region tends to fly under the radar, but we see this partnership as a foundational element to following through on our long-term vision by making inroads with potential to lead and lend guidance on the broad development and deployment of Web3 in a talent-rich crypto-forward region. We look forward to the shared work with the Nordic Blockchain Association and everything we can accomplish in the near term over the next 100 years and beyond. So again, you know, it's still great exposure, and it's great to really kind of bring in more builders to the Hedera network and ultimately focus on, you know, the key things around realizing in the vision of Web3 as a whole. Now, outside of this, one of the biggest things that everyone was focused on was actually community nodes. So we have over here from Hedera, we wanted to provide more context regarding the removal of community nodes from the Hedera roadmap. Again, we remain committed to creating technology that enables community nodes and are actively working on the foundational elements necessary to ensure Hedera maintains its performance and stability after the change. Now, everyone looked at this in a negative way, simply because they thought, all right, well, now they're just cutting out retail in general, and this is not going to decentralize, you know, Hedera. It's actually going to make it even more, you know, centralized. Again, I don't look at this as a bad thing. Honestly, I think that this really kind of proves the fact that like Hedera is 100% committed to becoming an enterprise grade focused network, which is fine with me, especially considering the fact that the GC is still decentralizing the overall network. Is it like a bad look in this space? You could argue that it is, but in my opinion, I don't think that's really that big of a deal. Also, just to give you guys a quick insight, how many people out there were actually fully focused on running a node? If we actually go over here, Dagnum PI made a great point about this. We have Hedera removed community nodes from the roadmap. How many people honestly held enough HBAR, which I think it was like 250,000 HBAR, and also how many people actually own the hardware required? And again, you know, it's limiting for a lot of those people out there that were saying like, oh, this is such a bad thing. Like, how many of them actually held 250,000 HBAR? How many of them had the hardware required? A very low percentage, in my opinion. But regardless, we know that just recently from a Spaces from Wolf Web3 titled Hedera, ABFT, and Gossip Protocol, How Does It Compare? Lehman Baird actually told us that community nodes are not canceled. Like, community nodes are still a focus of them or from them, but they're kind of on the back burner right now. So they still are happening. They're still a focus, but it's just on the back burner at this current moment in time. It's not like they fully canceled this and said, all right, screw the community and screw the retail sector. We're only focused on, you know, institutions and enterprise. No, it's just on the back burner right now. And I'm totally fine with that. Now, outside of this, what about DeFi, right? As we look at DeFi, we have over here, as part of the DeFi Spring, SushiSwap Labs will distribute a total of 23,125,000 HBAR through various initiatives across the DEX. And over here, we have a full breakdown of this. This happened on June 1st. On Monday, June 3rd, SushiSwap will launch the Spring Incentives campaign in collaboration with the HBAR Foundation. And down here, we can see the full breakdown of this. 21 million HBAR for liquidity rewards, almost 2 million HBAR for network fee rebates, and 250,000 HBAR for a faucet initiative. And we have down here a third of the liquidity rewards portion of the grant, which is 7 million HBAR, is designated for yield farm rewards in V1 pools. And again, you can actually see this broken down in terms of the incentives campaign. And then down here we have, now we also see down here that liquidity aligned rewards initiative, LARI, which is 14 million HBAR. So 2/3 of the liquidity rewards portion of the grant will fund LARI rewards in V2, commencing June 3rd. 2.3 million HBAR will be distributed in the first 2 weeks, and they just kind of break it fully down. And here you have the Springs incentives campaign, LARI Epic 15 weights. And then down here, we also see network fee rebates, faucet initiatives as well. So each month, 2/3 of these fees are rebated to the accounts via an airdrop, boosting trading activity and not requiring any user actions on claims. And then down here, we just see the SushiSwap Discord server features a faucet bot dispensing small amounts of HBAR to access this. Basically have to be a part of their network. And again, all of this is just to kind of promote growth of not only SushiSwap, but also projects even building out on Hedera. Like even up here, we actually see like the focus will initially be supporting pools containing Hedera native and Hashport bridge tokens. and things like that. So this is building upon, what we already have in terms of DeFi, and really kind of just supporting the ecosystem to grow it even more and more. And even right now, as we really kind of look at Hedera, there's still well over $100 million in TVL. Recently, this did have a pretty large move to the downside, but hey, it's not just Hedera. Even if you go look at Ethereum also had a pretty substantial move to the downside. You got to remember that this is in billions of dollars. So, this year alone, let me actually show you guys real quick. This year alone, it did hit about roughly 130, almost $4 billion. And just recently, this dropped to about $120 billion. So again, there has been some waves around the DeFi space with the recent moves in the market. So that's why we are seeing such a substantial drop to the downside, but it's not really that much compared to like Ethereum or Tron or BSC, etc. So overall, to really kind of summarize this, I'm very excited about the future still of Hedera. I think that they are doing some substantial work around bringing developers and bringing users over to Hedera, putting a spotlight on what Hedera and HBAR are really doing. And as we really look at price action, I am expecting the price action to bounce back in a large way. Again, these liquidation events in the market where a lot of these lick hunts happen. For an example, even going back to April, we had something like this happen as well. We ran all the way up here to about 14 cents. And all of a sudden you had a massive liquidation event where, downside in terms of this demand zone of almost 7 cents got targeted. And that was also due to the market selling off in a large way. And then we, of course, had a move to the upside with the BlackRock news and stuff like that. But the number one thing to take from this is every single time that we have a lick hunt to the bottom or even a lick hunt to the upside, the opposite price action really kind of follows through. So if you see such a massive move to the upside, like for an example, like the BlackRock news technically was, there was a lot of things behind that. I don't want to say like, oh, hey, look at like this is going to happen every single time. No, but really when we have such a move into like a supply zone, like back in the beginning of March, we typically have a sell-off. And this allowed us to target liquidity on the upside, but also on the downside, promoting a much larger move in the market. So regardless of the BlackRock news or not, we were going to have a big move in the market regardless, which is why I always say like focus on things like this where you have that, major cascade of liquidations in the market, because technically what happens after is a substantial move to the upside. And even right now, as we actually look at this, and this is in a short amount of time, HBAR is already up about 14.17%. And just recently to the upside of this candle, it was about roughly like 21%. And I do expect this to move a lot higher in price. But right now, I technically look at this as an opportunity because right now we're trading at prices that we saw back in like the beginning of 2023. Now, are we all the way down here? No, but again, we're still in a pretty solid area in terms of price action. So if anyone was looking at HBAR and saying like, oh, I missed it above 10 or I missed it below 10 cents, now you have another opportunity below 10 cents to actually technically look at HBAR. So don't, take this as, oh, I'm so bearish on HBAR, I'm so tired of the price action, blah, blah, blah. Like technically utilize it as an opportunity. But outside of that, I do hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.